The bridge of the dreadnought Indomitable hummed with quiet efficiency as Admiral Chen Wei-Lin studied the star charts displayed before her. The 3rd Expeditionary Force had been on patrol for 6 weeks, mapping the outer boundaries of human-explored space. It was routine work, the kind that made young officers restless and veterans grateful for the peace. Lieutenant Marcus Webb sat at the communications station, cycling through standard frequency sweeps. The job was monotonous, listening to the background noise of space, the occasional automated beacon from mining operations, and the distant chatter of commercial vessels. He was 3 hours into his shift when something unusual caught his attention. "Admiral, I'm picking up something strange," Webb said, his fingers dancing across his console. "It's a distress signal, but not in any format I recognize." Chen rose from her command chair and walked over to Webb's station. She was a woman in her mid-50s with gray streaking through her black hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. The Proxima Wars had aged her, but they had also honed her into one of humanity's finest military commanders. "Let me hear it," she said. The bridge speakers crackled to life. The signal was broken and desperate, a series of sounds that clearly indicated panic even though the language was completely alien. Behind the voice they could hear explosions and the distinctive whine of energy weapons. "That's a distress call," Chen said with certainty. "Commander Hayes, get our linguistics AI working on that language. I want a translation as fast as possible." Commander Sarah Hayes, the ship's executive officer, immediately set to work. The Indomitable's computers were among the most advanced in the human fleet, capable of processing vast amounts of data in seconds. Within minutes, the AI had begun constructing a basic translation matrix. The translated message came through in fragments, but the meaning was clear enough. A civilian convoy was under attack. The speakers identified themselves as Valorians. They were outgunned and their shields were failing. They were calling for help from anyone who could hear them. "Location?" Chen asked. "Kepler 442 system, Admiral," Webb replied. "About 3 hours away at maximum speed. Any other ships in the area?" "Negative. We're the closest vessel by at least 2 days." Chen stood silent for a moment, weighing her options. Protocol was clear on this matter. The United Earth Fleet was not supposed to interfere in conflicts involving alien species, unless human interests were directly threatened. Their mission was exploration and defense of human territory, not playing hero for unknown aliens. Commander Hayes moved to stand beside her. "Admiral, regulations state that we should report this to Fleet Command and await orders." "By the time we get orders, those civilians will be dead," Chen replied quietly. She turned to face her bridge crew. Every eye was on her, waiting for the decision. "We didn't come out here just to draw maps. We came to represent humanity among the stars. What kind of message does it send if we ignore a cry for help?" "Some might say it sends the message that we mind our own business," Hayes said, playing devil's advocate. "We don't know these Valorians. We don't know who's attacking them or why. This could be a legitimate law enforcement action for all we know." Chen shook her head. "Did that sound like law enforcement to you, Commander?" That was terror in those voices. "Besides, the attackers aren't identifying themselves. Pirates, most likely." She made her decision. "Helm, set course for Kepler 442, maximum speed. All hands to battle stations." The alarm klaxons began to sound throughout the ship. The Indomitable had been cruising at reduced readiness, but now every system came online. Crew members rushed to their posts. Gun crews loaded weapons. Fighter pilots ran to their craft. Engineering pushed the reactors to combat power. "Transmit to the rest of the fleet," Chen ordered. "We're responding to a distress call. Expect hostile contact." The 3rd Expeditionary Force consisted of 7 ships: the dreadnought Indomitable, 3 destroyers named Thunder, Relentless, and Striker, 2 frigates called Phantom and Spectre, and the stealth carrier Nightfall. They were all veteran ships with veteran crews, hardened by years of conflict. As they approached the Kepler 442 system, the sensor data began to paint a clearer picture. Lieutenant Commander James Park, the tactical officer, brought up a holographic display showing the battlefield. 40 contacts, Admiral. They're circling 3 larger vessels. The large vessels match the configuration described in the distress call. Those must be the Valorian transports. And the 40 contacts? Unknown configuration, but their behavior patterns match raiders. They're taking turns hammering the transport's shields, playing with them. Chen's jaw tightened. She had seen this before back during the Proxima Wars. Pirates and raiders loved to terrorize their victims before finishing them off. It was about more than just stealing cargo. It was about spreading fear. "Get me a profile on those raiders," she ordered. The computer worked quickly, comparing the ship designs against known species in humanity's database. The match came back within seconds. "Zathari swarm, Admiral," Park reported. "Known pirates and slavers. They've been operating in this region for decades. No formal government, just a loose confederation of warlords. They're considered a major threat to civilian shipping. Have they ever encountered humans before?" "Negative. No recorded contact." Chen allowed herself a thin smile. "Then they're in for a surprise. Communications. I want you to prepare a message in the common trade language. We're going to give them one chance to back off." "Admiral, with respect," Commander Hayes said. "They outnumber us more than 5-1. Numbers aren't everything, Commander. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way over thousands of years of warfare. These pirates are used to picking on unarmed transports. They've probably never faced a real military force. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The Valorian transports were in bad shape. Their shields flickered weakly, and scorch marks covered their hulls. The Zathari raiders swarmed around them like insects, their weapons blazing. "Open a channel on all frequencies," Chen commanded. "This is Admiral Chen Wei-Lin of the United Earth Fleet to all Zathari vessels. You are attacking civilian ships. Stand down immediately and withdraw, or we will use force." The response came quickly. The voice was harsh and guttural, translated by the communications system. "Foolish mammals. This is not your concern. These ships and their cargo belong to us. You have 7 ships. We have 40. Leave now or join them in death." Laughter echoed across the channel before it cut off. Chen looked around her bridge. Her crew stared back at her with grim determination. They had all heard the pirates' words. They all knew what came next. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," she said into the fleet-wide channel. "We've come a long way as a species. We've fought wars among ourselves and learned hard lessons about courage, sacrifice, and doing what's right. Today we show the galaxy what humanity stands for. All weapons free. Target the raiders. Show them why they should have run." The Indomitable's massive railguns began to spin up, building charge. Throughout the fleet, weapon systems came online. Fighter bays opened. The most lethal fleet in the galaxy was about to introduce itself to an unsuspecting enemy. The first shot came from the Indomitable. The Dreadnought's main railgun fired a tungsten carbide slug the size of a small car, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The projectile crossed the distance between the fleets in seconds, moving so fast that the Zathari sensor systems barely registered it before impact. The pirate ship exploded. One moment it existed, the next it was a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated debris. There was no time for shields to activate, no chance for evasive maneuvers. The sheer kinetic energy of the impact vaporized the entire vessel. For a brief moment, the Zathari fleet seemed to freeze in confusion. They had never seen weapons like this before. Most galactic civilizations relied on energy weapons or slow-moving missiles. The human doctrine of kinetic bombardment was something entirely new to them. That moment of hesitation cost them dearly. The 3 human destroyers opened fire simultaneously. Their plasma lances reached out across space. Superheated streams of contained matter that burned through shields and armor like paper. 3 more pirate ships died before their commanders could react. "Evasive maneuvers," Lieutenant Commander Park announced calmly, watching the tactical display. "The raiders are returning fire." The Zathari weapons were energy beams, colorful but relatively weak compared to their human equivalents. The Indomitable's shields absorbed the attacks easily, the defensive systems barely registering the impacts. Human shield technology had been developed during the brutal Proxima Wars, where survival meant having better defenses than your enemy had offense. "Target the ships closest to the Valorian transports," Admiral Chen ordered. "I want those civilians protected." The battle unfolded with devastating efficiency. The human ships moved with a grace and speed that seemed impossible for vessels of their size. Their maneuvering thrusters fired in precise bursts, their AI-assisted navigation systems calculating trajectories thousands of times per second. The Zathari tried to surround them, to use their numerical advantage, but the human formation never broke. The frigates Phantom and Spectre lived up to their names. They were smaller and faster than the other ships, designed for hit-and-run tactics. They darted through the enemy formation like predatory fish, their weapon systems targeting engines and weapons batteries with surgical precision. Crippled pirate ships spun helplessly, unable to maneuver or fight back. "Launch fighters," Chen commanded. The carrier Nightfall had been hanging back, seemingly inactive. Now its launch bays opened, and squadrons of human fighters poured out. Each fighter was a masterpiece of engineering, small enough to be difficult targets but heavily armed and armored. More importantly, they were piloted by humans who had trained their entire adult lives for combat. The fighters swept through the Zathari formation like a swarm of angry hornets. Their missiles streaked across space, each one guided by an AI that could adjust its course 1,000 times before impact. The pirates' point defense systems were overwhelmed. Ship after ship fell to the fighter assault. Inside the cockpit of Fighter Alpha 1, Commander Lisa Rodriguez pulled her stick hard, executing a turn that would have killed most organic species. Human pilots wore specialized suits that helped manage the extreme forces, and years of training had conditioned their bodies to handle maneuvers that defied common sense. "Fox 3, Fox 3, she called out, announcing missile launch. Her targeting computer had locked onto a pirate cruiser that was trying to flee. The missile launched and immediately began weaving through space, avoiding the desperate defensive fire from its target. Impact. Another enemy ship died. Alpha leader to all fighters. Keep them boxed in. Don't let any escape to warn their friends." Back on the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with professional detachment. This was what her fleet had been built for. Decades of human warfare had taught brutal lessons about combat effectiveness. Every system on her ships had been refined through trial and error, paid for with the blood of previous generations. "Admiral, the Zathari are attempting to flee," Commander Hayes reported. Chen shook her head. "Negative. Let none escape. We need to send a clear message about what happens when you attack civilians in human-protected space." It was a cold decision, but a necessary one. If word got out that humans were easy marks, that their warnings could be ignored, then this would happen again and again. Better to be feared than to watch more innocents die. The destroyers Thunder, Relentless, and Striker pursued the fleeing pirates. Their engines were more powerful and their hulls more aerodynamic than the Zathari designs. Within minutes they had caught up to the stragglers. The brief exchange of fire was completely one-sided. Enemy forces reduced to 15 ships, Park reported. 10 are attempting to surrender. 5 are still fighting. "Accept the surrender of the 10, Chen said. "Disable their weapons and engines. As for the other 5, eliminate them." The battle lasted 18 minutes from first shot to final surrender. Of the 40 Zathari raiders, 33 were destroyed. 7 survived, and those only because they had surrendered immediately and completely. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. Only the Indomitable's shields had even been scratched. As the human ships secured the battlefield, the Valorian transports remained where they had been throughout the fight, their crews watching in stunned silence. They had called for help expecting nothing. If someone had come, they had expected a long negotiation, perhaps a token effort to drive off the pirates. What they had witnessed instead was total annihilation delivered with surgical precision. "Open a channel to the Valorian ships," Admiral Chen ordered. "All frequencies, standard first contact protocols." Lieutenant Webb worked his console, then nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." Chen took a breath, knowing that her next words would be humanity's first real introduction to another species. "This is Admiral Chen Wei-Lin of the United Earth Fleet. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Your ships are safe. We are here to help." The response came after a long pause. The voice was musical, almost like multiple people singing in harmony. The translation software struggled for a moment before settling on an approximation. "We are the Valorian Concordat. We did not expect. We have never seen. Who are you? What are you?" "We are humans from the planet Earth. We received your distress signal and responded. Do your ships require assistance?" Another pause. "Yes, our shields are failing. Hull breaches on Deck 7 of the Harmonious Dawn. Casualties. We cannot believe. You came. No one has ever come before." Those last words hung in the air on the bridge. Commander Hayes met Chen's eyes, and the Admiral saw her own thoughts reflected there. What kind of galaxy was this where a distress call went unanswered? Where had humanity emerged into? "We will send repair teams and medical personnel," Chen said. "Please transmit your atmospheric requirements and medical data so we can properly assist your wounded." The information came through quickly. The Valorians were oxygen breathers, though they preferred slightly higher humidity than humans. Their biology was compatible enough that human medical knowledge could be adapted with some adjustments. Commander Hayes, organize rescue teams, Chen ordered. I want our best engineers and medics over there. Full first contact protocols. Everyone on their best behavior. We're representing all of humanity here. Hayes nodded and began issuing orders. Within minutes, shuttles were being prepared, supplies loaded, and volunteers organized. The human crews were eager to help, their blood still running hot from the battle. Admiral Chen stood and straightened her uniform. I'll be leading the team to the Valorian flagship. Commander Hayes, you have the bridge. Admiral, is that wise? We don't know anything about these aliens. Chen smiled slightly. That's exactly why I need to go. First contact is too important to delegate. Besides, they just watched us destroy 40 ships in less than 20 minutes. I think they'll be polite. As Chen headed to the shuttle bay, she thought about what lay ahead. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. There would be consequences, both good and bad. But as she had told her crew, they had not come to space just to hide. They had come to make a difference. The shuttle from the Indomitable docked with the Valorian flagship Harmonious Dawn, with barely a whisper of escaping air. Admiral Chen stood in the airlock with 6 other humans. 2 Marines in full-powered armor, 2 engineers, a medic, and Lieutenant Webb to handle communications. All of them wore their dress uniforms, immaculately maintained despite the months in space. First impressions mattered. The inner airlock door opened and Chen got her first look at an alien species. The Valorians were beautiful in an unsettling way. They stood on 4 legs, their bodies covered in what looked like mother-of-pearl scales that shifted colors in the light. Their upper torsos were almost humanoid, with forearms ending in delicate, multi-jointed fingers. Their faces were elongated with large compound eyes and small mandibles that clicked softly when they spoke. A group of 5 Valorians waited in the docking bay. The one in front wore elaborate robes decorated with flowing patterns. When she spoke, her voice came out as a harmonious blend of tones like a small choir singing together. I am Choir Master Velnara, captain of this vessel. We welcome you aboard the Harmonious Dawn, saviors from Earth. Lieutenant Webb's translation device worked overtime, converting the musical language into standard English. Chen stepped forward and offered a slight bow, careful not to make any gesture that might be offensive. I am Admiral Chen Wei-Lin of the United Earth Fleet. We are honored to meet you, Choir Master. Are your people safe? Velnara's mandibles clicked in what the translation software suggested was distress. We have casualties. 17 dead, 32 wounded. Our engineering sections were hit hard. Without your intervention, we would all be dead or enslaved within the hour. Chen nodded to her medic. Dr. Patel here is trained in emergency medicine. If you can show her you're wounded and provide basic information about Valorian physiology, she will do everything she can to help. Dr. Maya Patel stepped forward, her medical scanner already in hand. Another Valorian, wearing what looked like medical markings, approached nervously. The 2 medical professionals moved off together, communicating through gestures and the translation device. Our engineers can help with the hull breaches, Chen offered. We brought repair equipment. You are too generous, Velnara said. We cannot repay such kindness, and we don't expect payment. This is what civilized species do. They help each other. Velnara's body language suggested confusion. Her scales shifted to a deep blue color. You must forgive my surprise, Admiral. In our experience, no species helps without expecting something in return. The strong dominate the weak. That is simply how the galaxy works. Chen felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. How long have your people been traveling the stars, Choir Master? Nearly 3,000 of your years. We have visited hundreds of worlds, traded with dozens of species, and in all that time we have learned that the Valorian Concordat is considered weak. We have no great weapons, no mighty fleet. We survive by being useful, by trading goods that others want, and by accepting that we will sometimes be raided and there is nothing we can do about it. The Zathari have attacked you before? Many times. They take our cargo, sometimes our people. We report it to the galactic authorities, but nothing changes. The Trellan hegemony, the most powerful military force in known space, tells us this is natural. The weak must accept their place. Chen's jaw tightened. She had fought in 3 wars, seen more death than any person should, but she had always believed it was for something. To protect the innocent, to defend those who could not defend themselves. The idea that the galaxy simply accepted piracy and slavery as normal made her blood boil. That may be how the galaxy works, Choirmaster, but it is not how humanity works. We will escort you to your homeworld. No one will attack you while we are present. Velnara's scales shifted to bright yellow. The translation software suggested this indicated joy or relief. You would do this? But you have only just met us. You know nothing of our people. We know you called for help and that you were being attacked by pirates. That's enough. Over the next several hours, human crews worked alongside Valorian ones to repair the damaged transports. The humans were impressed by the Valorian ship designs, which were elegant and efficient even if they lacked adequate weapons. The Valorians, in turn, were amazed by human technology. The powered armor that the Marines wore, the sophisticated repair tools, even the coffee that the humans shared, all of it was fascinating to them. During the repair work, Lieutenant Webb spent time with Velnara, learning about the Valorian Concordat and the larger galactic community. What he learned disturbed him deeply, and he reported it all to Admiral Chen. Admiral, according to Velnara, there are thousands of species in this part of the galaxy. Most of them are organized into about a dozen major powers. The biggest ones are the Trellan hegemony, which is primarily military, the Morphidian Empire, which is focused on commerce, and the Crystalline Collective, which is some kind of hive mind. And where do humans fit into this? Chen asked. We don't, at least not yet. The Valorians had never heard of us. Earth is on the very edge of explored space. We're newcomers, and the major powers haven't paid much attention to us yet. That's about to change, Chen said grimly. What about the Zathari? They're pirates, just like we thought. No central government, just warlords controlling fleets. They've been raiding in this region for decades, maybe centuries. The major powers mostly ignore them because they only attack weak targets. Chen stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the damaged Valorian ships. Tell me something, Lieutenant. In all the history you've studied, has there ever been a period when humanity just accepted that the strong could do whatever they wanted to the weak? Webb thought for a moment. Not really, Admiral. Even in our darkest times, there were always people fighting against tyranny and oppression. It's kind of what we do, exactly. And I don't see why that should change just because we're in space now. A few hours later, Dr. Patel returned to give her report. All the wounded Valorians are stable, Admiral. Their biology is actually not that different from arthropods on Earth. I was able to adapt our trauma protocols with help from their medical staff. We saved 3 who would have died otherwise. Good work, Doctor. Admiral, there's something else. I spoke with their medical staff about the Zathari. Apparently the pirates don't just steal cargo. They take people too, slaves. The Valorian doctor told me they've lost hundreds of their people over the years to raids. Chen closed her eyes briefly. Slavery. Of course. Where there were pirates, there was always slavery. Did she say where they take them? Various places. Apparently there's an entire black market for slaves in this part of space. The Zathari have a main base somewhere in unclaimed territory where they auction people off. Get me everything we have on Zathari operations, Chen ordered. Locations, ship movements, anything. And get me a secure channel to Fleet Command. They need to know what we've found out here. By the time repairs were complete, Admiral Chen had made several decisions. The fleet would escort the Valorians home, which would take about a week. During that time, she would compile a full report for Fleet Command about the galactic situation. She would recommend an immediate increase in patrol activity in this region, and a formal policy on responding to distress calls from alien species. She also knew that 7 human ships had just changed the balance of power. In this part of space, the Zathari had lost 33 vessels. That was not something that would be forgotten or forgiven. Eventually, there would be retaliation. But Chen had sent one of the captured pirate ships back towards Zathari space, with a message loaded into its computer. The message was simple. Humanity protects the innocent. Attack civilian ships at your own peril. As the human fleet prepared to depart with the Valorian convoy, Velnara requested one final meeting with Admiral Chen. They met in the Harmonious Dawn's observation lounge, a beautiful circular room with windows looking out into space. Admiral Chen, I want to thank you again for saving my people, Velnara said, but I must also warn you. The Zathari do not forgive insults. You have hurt them badly. They will seek revenge. Let them come, Chen replied. We'll be ready. You do not understand. They will not just send a raiding party. They will gather their warlords and bring everything they have. Hundreds of ships. Chen smiled, though there was no humor in it. Choirmaster, humanity spent most of its history fighting itself. We had 2 world wars that killed millions. We nearly destroyed our own planet several times. We learned how to fight through thousands of years of brutal experience. If the Zathari want a war, they'll get one. And they'll learn why you don't threaten civilians when humans are watching. Velnara's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a deep purple that the translation software could not interpret. I believe you, Admiral, and I think the galaxy is about to learn something new. There is a species that does not accept the old rules, a species that believes the strong should protect the weak rather than prey upon them. That's exactly right, Chen said. Welcome to humanity. The news traveled faster than any ship could fly. Within days, every major power in the galaxy had heard about the human intervention. Communication networks buzzed with debate, analysis, and speculation. A new species had appeared seemingly from nowhere and destroyed a significant Zathari force without taking a single loss. The implications were staggering. On the Trellan hegemony capital world of Trell Prime, the military council gathered in emergency session. The Trellans were a species that had dominated this region of space for 2,000 years. They were large, heavily armored beings who believed that military might made right. Their empire was built on the principle that the strong ruled and the weak obeyed. Grand Marshal Korvex slammed his armored fist on the conference table. This cannot be allowed. These humans interfered in a matter that was not their concern. They violated the natural order. What natural order? Asked Diplomat General Threll, one of the few Trellans who preferred talking to fighting. The one where pirates attack civilians and we do nothing because it's too much trouble to police the outer regions? The Valorians are weak. The Zathari are strong. That is all that matters. The humans destroyed 40 Zathari ships in 18 minutes. That makes them stronger than the Zathari. So by your logic, should we not defer to them? Korvex had no answer for that. The council descended into argument. Eventually, they agreed to send a diplomatic message to humanity, warning them to stay out of affairs that did not concern them. They also quietly upgraded the human threat assessment from negligible to moderate and began gathering intelligence on this new species. On the Morphidian homeworld, the reaction was different. The Morphidian Empire was built on trade and commerce. They viewed the galaxy through the lens of profit and loss. To them, the human intervention represented an opportunity. Emperor Zalthor reviewed the combat footage that had been pieced together from various sources. Impressive, he said, his tentacles writhing in what his species considered a smile. Very impressive. Their weapons technology is at least a generation ahead of anything we have. Their ships move with precision that suggests very advanced artificial intelligence. Should we consider them a threat, Your Imperial Majesty? Asked one of his advisors. A threat? No, an opportunity. Send a trade delegation to human space immediately. Offer them economic partnership. If they are as powerful as this footage suggests, we want them as friends, not enemies. Besides, if they are serious about protecting civilian shipping, that is good for business. Pirates are bad for trade. The Crystalline Collective, a Gestalt consciousness spread across thousands of crystalline bodies, analyzed the situation with cold logic. The humans were a variable that had not been factored into the collective's long-term strategic planning. Variables were dangerous. Variables needed to be understood and categorized. The collective sent scout ships toward human space to observe and gather data. They also began running simulations, trying to predict how the humans would alter the balance of power in the galaxy. The results were concerning. Every simulation that assumed the humans would continue their interventionist behavior resulted in significant shifts in the galactic order. Meanwhile, in Zathari space, Warlord Krish the Render was gathering his forces. His personal compound was carved into an asteroid, a fortress filled with weapons and soldiers. He sat on his command throne watching the footage of his ships being destroyed by the humans, and his rage grew with each viewing. They dare, he growled. They dare to attack my warriors, to humiliate me in front of the entire galaxy. His second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Takresh, stood nearby. My lord, perhaps we should be cautious. The humans destroyed our ships with ease. Their technology is superior. Krish spun and struck Takresh across the face with enough force to send him sprawling. Are you a coward? We have numbers. We have allies. We have warriors who have been raiding these space lanes for generations. What do the humans have? 7 ships, 7. My lord, those 7 ships destroyed 40 of ours. Because our warriors were surprised. Because they were not prepared. This time will be different. Krish stood and addressed the gathered warlords who had answered his call. The humans have made a mistake. They have shown us their strength, but they have also revealed their weakness. They care about civilians. They protect the weak. This is foolishness that we can exploit. Krish's plan was simple in its brutality. He would gather every ship he could, not just from his own fleet, but from other Zathari warlords and from mercenary groups throughout the region. He would find where the humans lived, and he would attack their colonies. He would kill their civilians until they learned that interfering with the Zathari had consequences. "Send word to our allies," Krish commanded. "Tell the mercenary companies that there is profit to be made. Tell the other warlords that the humans have made themselves our enemies. We will gather the largest fleet ever assembled, and we will crush them. And then, the entire galaxy will know that these Zathari are not to be trifled with." On Earth, Admiral Chen stood before the United Earth Council, giving her report. The council chamber was packed with representatives from every nation that had contributed to the space program. They listened in silence as she described the rescue, the battle, and what she had learned about the galactic community. In summary, Chen concluded, "We have entered a galaxy where slavery is tolerated, where piracy is considered acceptable, and where the strong prey on the weak without consequence. The major powers have built their civilizations on this foundation, and they are not happy that we have challenged it." Council Chairman David Okafor leaned forward. "Admiral Chen, you exceeded your authority. Your mission was exploration, not military intervention in alien conflicts. With respect, sir, my mission was to represent humanity among the stars. When we heard a distress call, we had a choice. We could ignore it and show the galaxy that humans are cowards who hide when others need help. Or we could respond and show them what humanity stands for. And you chose to potentially start an interstellar war. I chose to do the right thing, and I would make the same choice again." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives praised Chen's moral courage and argued that humanity needed to take a stand. Others condemned her for risking human lives and potentially making enemies of powerful alien civilizations. The debate raged for hours until new intelligence reports arrived. The Zathari were gathering a massive fleet. Mercenary groups from across the galaxy were joining them, and their target appeared to be Arcturus Station, one of humanity's primary outposts and shipyards. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This was no longer theoretical. "War was coming. How many ships are they gathering?" asked the council chairman. "Estimated 200 Zathari vessels plus another 50 mercenary warships," replied Admiral Grant Harrison, the head of Fleet Intelligence. "They're also claiming to have support from elements of the Trellan hegemony, though we're not sure if that's true or just propaganda. Can we defend against that?" Admiral Harrison looked at Chen. "Admiral Chen, your honest assessment. Can we hold Arcturus Station against those numbers?" Chen stood and met the eyes of everyone in the room. "Alone? No, 7 ships cannot hold against 250. But we don't have just 7 ships. We have the entire United Earth Navy. And I know our people, our ships, and our capabilities. If you authorize full mobilization, if you let us bring every warship we have to Arcturus Station, then yes, we can win. At what cost?" someone asked. "I don't know," Chen admitted, "but I know the cost of backing down. If we run, if we abandon Arcturus Station, we will forever be marked as weak. Every pirate, every slaver, every tyrant in the galaxy will know that humans can be intimidated. And then we will never be safe. Better to fight now, to show them who we are than to spend the next century living in fear." The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Earth would defend Arcturus Station. The full might of the United Earth Navy would be deployed. Every ship that could fly would be sent to face the Zathari. As the council adjourned, Chen was approached by Admiral Harrison. "You know they're going to make you lead this battle." "I know. You just talked us into a war that might cost thousands of lives." "I talked us into standing up for what's right." "There's a difference." Harrison studied her for a long moment. "I hope you're right, Chen, I really do. Because if you're wrong, humanity's first impression on the galaxy will be our extinction." Chen returned to the Indomitable with new orders. The 3rd Expeditionary Force would be the vanguard, the first line of defense. But they would not be alone. Every shipyard in human space was working overtime. Every ship was being recalled from patrol. Reserves were being activated. The message went out across all human military channels: prepare for war. 3 weeks after the rescue of the Valorian convoy, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, and looked at the largest human fleet ever assembled. 317 warships hung in space around Arcturus Station, their running lights creating a field of stars against the darkness. Every ship that could be spared had come. Every crew was ready. The fleet represented the full strength of humanity's military power. There were 28 dreadnoughts, their massive hulls bristling with weapons. There were 63 destroyers, sleek and fast. There were 92 frigates, smaller ships designed for speed and maneuverability. There were 41 carriers, each loaded with fighters. And there were 93 support vessels, including hospital ships, supply carriers, and mobile repair docks. Status report, Chen commanded. Commander Hayes stood at her usual position. All ships report ready for combat, Admiral. The outer defense network is active. Fighters are deployed in patrol patterns. Long-range sensors are set to maximum sensitivity. And our guests? The Valorian convoy has been secured in the inner system. Choirmaster Velnara is asking permission to stay and observe. Chen smiled slightly. After delivering the Valorians safely home, she had been surprised when Velnara requested permission to return with 3 ships carrying volunteer crews. The Valorians wanted to witness the battle, to see if humanity could truly stand against the forces gathering against them. Permission granted. Keep them well back from the fighting, Lieutenant Webb called out from communications. Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up multiple faster-than-light signatures. Lots of them. They're dropping into real space at the edge of the system. Here we go, Chen said quietly. All ships, battle stations. This is not a drill. Throughout the fleet, alarms sounded. Crews ran to their posts. Weapon systems powered up. Shield generators hummed to full capacity. In the fighter bays, pilots sealed their helmets and prepared to launch. The enemy fleet appeared like a swarm of insects. 200 Zathari raiders, their ships decorated with tribal markings and kill tallies. 50 mercenary vessels from a dozen different species, their hulls bearing the scars of countless battles. And hanging back just far enough to claim they were merely observing, 5 Trellin hegemony warships. The combined enemy force outnumbered humanity's fleet, but not by as much as the Zathari had hoped. Warlord Krish, commanding from his flagship, felt a moment of doubt when he saw the human numbers, but he pushed it down. They had come too far to back down now. All ships, this is Warlord Krish. We will show these humans what happens when they interfere with the Zathari. We will burn their station and kill their warriors. Attack! The pirate fleet surged forward in a disorganized mass. There was no coordination, no strategy. Each warlord commanded his own ships and cared only about his own glory. The mercenaries hung back slightly, unwilling to be the first into the meat grinder. Admiral Chen watched them come. They're not even trying to coordinate their approach. They think they can just overwhelm us with numbers. Should we move to intercept? Commander Hayes asked. Negative. Let them come to us. The closer they get, the more our defense platforms can engage. Prepare firing solution Alpha. The human fleet held position in a defensive formation around Arcturus Station. The station itself was armed, its massive weapons platforms tracking the incoming targets. As the pirates entered range, Chen gave the order. All ships open fire. The space between the 2 fleets lit up with violence. Human railguns fired salvo after salvo, each tungsten projectile carrying enough kinetic energy to crack a planet. Plasma lances reached out, superheated streams of matter that burned through anything they touched. Missile pods launched thousands of self-guided munitions, each one carrying enough explosive power to vaporize a building. The Zathari had expected a fight. What they got was a massacre. Human targeting systems, refined through centuries of warfare, never missed. Every shot was calculated, optimized, and delivered with perfect precision. The pirates' shields, designed to handle energy weapons, were worthless against kinetic bombardment. Their armor, sufficient for raids on civilian ships, crumpled like paper. The first wave of Zathari ships died before they could get within effective weapons range. 25 vessels destroyed in the opening salvo. The survivors kept coming, driven by pride and rage and the knowledge that retreat would mean dishonor. Launch all fighters, Chen commanded. The carriers released their birds. Thousands of human fighters poured into space, their pilots eager for the fight. They hit the enemy formation like a tidal wave, their weapons tearing through shields and armor with ruthless efficiency. Commander Rodriguez led Fighter Squadron Alpha 1 directly into the heart of the enemy fleet. Her targeting computer screamed warnings about the number of hostile vessels, but she ignored it. This was what she had trained for her entire life. Alpha Squadron, break and attack. Pick your targets and fire at will. Her squadron split up, each pilot selecting an enemy ship and engaging with deadly precision. Rodriguez locked onto a Zathari cruiser and fired a full spread of missiles. The enemy point defense systems tried to stop them, but human missiles were too fast, too smart. Impacts rippled across the cruiser's hull. Secondary explosions. The ship broke apart. Splash one cruiser, Rodriguez called out. Moving to next target, the battle devolved into chaos. The human fleet maintained its formation, but the Zathari had no such discipline. Individual warlords charged forward seeking glory, only to be cut down by coordinated human fire. The mercenaries, seeing how badly the battle was going, began to retreat. Some of them tried to flee the system entirely. The human destroyers, faster and more maneuverable, hunted them down. On his flagship, Warlord Krish watched his dreams of conquest turn to ash. He had brought the largest fleet he could muster, and the humans were destroying it. His warriors were dying. His allies were fleeing, and the human ship seemed invincible, their shields absorbing everything his weapons could throw at them. All ships concentrate fire on their flagship, he commanded. If we can kill their leader, they will break. 30 Zathari ships turned their weapons on the Indomitable. Energy beams and missiles converged on the dreadnought. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually damage the massive human ship. But the Indomitable was designed to be the tip of humanity's spear. Its shields held. Its armor, layered and reinforced, absorbed impacts that would have destroyed lesser vessels. And its weapons never stopped firing. Admiral Chen felt the ship shudder under the barrage. Damage report. Shields down to 60%. Minor damage to the outer hull. All primary systems functional. Return fire. All weapons. The Indomitable spoke with thunder. Its main railgun fired 4 times in rapid succession, each shot destroying an enemy ship. Its plasma lances swept across the enemy formation like the fingers of an angry god. Its missile tubes launched salvo after salvo until the space around the enemy ships was filled with explosions. The Zathari fleet broke. Those ships that could still fly attempted to retreat, their crews abandoning any pretense of fighting spirit. But the human fleet had planned for this moment. Destroyer squadrons moved to cut off their escape routes. Fighter wings pursued fleeing ships and disabled their engines. The mercenaries who had betrayed their contracts by attacking civilians found no mercy. In less than an hour, the battle was over. Of the 200 Zathari ships that had attacked, 164 were destroyed. 23 were captured, their crews surrendering unconditionally. Only 13 escaped, and those only because they had been at the rear of the formation and fled at the first sign of trouble. The mercenary fleet fared little better. 38 of their 50 ships were destroyed or captured. The survivors broadcast desperate pleas for mercy, claiming they had been misled about the nature of their target. And the 5 Trellin hegemony ships, the ones that had hung back to observe, turned and fled without firing a single shot. They had seen enough. Admiral Chen surveyed the battlefield from her command chair. Human losses were minimal. 7 ships damaged, none destroyed. 342 casualties, including 87 dead. It was a price she hated to pay, but she knew it could have been so much worse. Open a channel. All frequencies, maximum power. I want everyone in this part of the galaxy to hear this. Lieutenant Webb worked quickly. Channel open, Admiral. Chen stood and looked directly at the main camera, knowing her image would be broadcast across countless worlds. This is Admiral Chen Wei-Lin of the United Earth Fleet. Today the Zathari came here seeking to punish humanity for defending innocent civilians. They brought hundreds of ships. They brought mercenaries and allies. They came seeking conquest and glory. They found only defeat. She paused, letting her words sink in. Let this message be clear to every power in the galaxy. Humanity will defend the innocent. Humanity will stand against tyranny and slavery. Humanity will not ask permission to do what is right. We did not come to the stars to prey on the weak. We came to build something better, and we will fight anyone who stands in the way of that dream.